Ice cold beers, Yankee fans or queers, the Mets home opener is here, and so is a fresh episode of the Savage Sack Tap. Oh dear. It starts right now.
You're listening to the Savage Sack Tap. It's not a podcast, it's not a half-cast, it's just a quick shot to the balls to help you finish off the week. We're cutting through the bullshit, filling your Friday with rage-fueled logic, and cracking a few jokes along the way. So grab a bag of frozen peas. There's a Savage Sack Tap coming your way.
Smooth, lascivious, salacious, outrageous.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really sucking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York town. Oh, the
Alright, one of my favorite days is here. It is the Mets home opener. I am Mike Montone. This is the Savage Sack Tap. It is podcast time and then off to City Field to get shitty at City, as we have been wont to say and do. I am probably going to watch this one inside of McFadden's and enjoy the 4 B's of opening days. Beer, bloodies, and busty bartenders. Baseball, too, so 2 more. The 6 B's of opening day. I also enjoy a nice bagel on opening day morning, so we throw a 7th B in there. And speaking of bagels, some asshole decided to slice his bagel like a loaf of bread. Like, you go to the store, you get, obviously you wouldn't do this to Italian bread. Well, I guess some people might. I wouldn't, but I just rip apart Italian bread, but that's neither here nor there. But you are aware, of course, of the way that a loaf of white bread is sliced, Well, they slice whole wheat and rye like that, too. I don't know why. It's not your white bread matters, is what I'm saying. But in any case, this jackass decides that he's going to post his stupid fucking bagel slicing technique. Again, if you cut a bagel, it's usually in half, kind of like you would do a Kaiser roll or something like that. This dipshit decides that his way of doing it is to have it sliced like a bread up and down through the thing. So it's not even a bagel anymore. It's just a bunch of chunks of oddly shaped fucking bread. It doesn't even make sense. That's not a fucking bagel. I mean, the Jewish people must be furious about this. They've gone through enough over the past few thousand years. They don't need some fuckhead from St. Louis, I believe it was, ruining bagels for the rest of the world. This guy calls it a St. Louis style bagel. I call it a douchebag style bagel, personally. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll try to share a picture of it, but it was going viral. If you search St. Louis style bagel, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's absolutely preposterous the way this dickhead was slicing his bagel, because the point of a bagel is to put shit in it, right? So you slice it in half, and then it turns into a big sandwich of whatever, whether you're a cream cheese guy, a butter guy, you like a little lox or some white fish on there, as God's chosen people do. I grew up where I grew up was a very big Taylor ham, egg, and cheese town. So you do that. You can't do that on a retardedly sliced bagel, all right? And you don't. It's stupid. It's not a 6-foot sub that you're bringing to a party and partitioning off for people. It's a fucking bagel, all right? He's like, oh, well, this allows everyone to have a little bit of each kind of bagel and suck my fucking dick. That's the fun thing about bagels, is if you're gonna go and you're gonna eat carbs and fatty creams together in combination, which are an absolute gut bomb, you're going to do it in the most gluttonous manner possible, which means having more than one bagel if you want to If you want an everything and a cinnamon raisin, you know what you do? You eat a fucking everything and a cinnamon raisin, okay? They're bagels. You finish a full bagel on your own like a fucking man. You don't slice it up like an asshole, alright? Fucking dick. I wish this guy worked in my office. This is the kind of guy who inspires workplace shootings, by the way. If, like, I'm not really a violent guy, but if I had a St. Louis-style bagel slicer in the office, you guarantee I'd be showing up with a fucking AR-15 and only one person on my hit list. And honestly, if you're not from New York or New Jersey, no one fucking cares about your opinion on bagels anyway. Like, you don't get a say in the matter, alright? This is our thing. It's, you know, it was a Panera bread bagel, too, which, absolute fucking dog shit, right? Who eats a fucking Panera? I think maybe once I had a Panera bagel, and it was because I was in, like, Florida or some shit, where, you know, they have Jews, but they don't have our water, so it's still tough to get a good bagel, because for those of you not from the New York area, bagels are, it's the water. Water plus Jews equal great bagels. That's the equation, if you were wondering. I think that was like the one time I had a Panera bagel, and I was like, oh my god. It's not a bagel, it's just fucking round rubbery dough. So I guess what I'm saying is suck my dick with your it's cultural appropriation is what it is, I think. Right? That's all I've been hearing for the past however many years, is everything is cultural appropriation. This is cultural appropriation. That's cultural appropriation. Eating sushi is cultural appropriation. Wearing a kimono, cultural appropriation. A bucket of fried chicken, cultural appropriation. Everything is cultural appropriation. Now, New York and New Jersey culture is being appropriated by some dickhead from St. Louis. So he can go right ahead and fuck himself. I'd tell him to stick his dick through a bagel, but the way he slices them up, it's not even a possibility anymore. So fuck that guy. Anyway, from dog shit bagels to full of shit celebrities, Chris Rock absolutely destroyed Jussie Smollett at the NAACP Image Awards, to use the parlance of the internet. He owned him. A few years ago it was owned, then we went to destroyed. The internet loves a good adjective. I mean, adverb? I don't fucking know. It's not fucking English class, cocksuckers. Sorry, I'm very wound up today. I'm literally a couple hours away from heading out to the ballpark for opening day, so I am giddy and probably rushing and stumbling and all over the fucking place, but you'll have to excuse me. It's like, this is like, opening day for me is up there with, like, I would say Christmas, Memorial Day, and Thanksgiving as far as holidays that totally fucking rule, in my opinion. And I know opening day was technically last week, but the home openers is really where the fun is at. Anyway, here is, I had to take the article from Fox News to do the prep for this, because I know how much it would infuriate the Jussie Smollets of the world and their supporters that Fox was even opining. They would get mad about Fox opining on this the way I get mad at some dickhead from St. Louis telling us how to cut our fucking bagels. Cocksucker. Anyway. So... It's Jussie Smollett might have been a no-show at Saturday night's NAACP Image Awards in Hollywood, but that didn't stop comedian Chris Rock from blasting the Empire star. He said, I guess they told him not to make any Jussie Smollett jokes, and he ignored that. And we do have a clip, and I'm very excited about it because fucking Chris Rock rules. Let's hear it.
An award. They said no Jussie Smollett jokes.
So it's Smollett.
Yeah, I know. What a waste of light skin, you know? You know what I could do with that light skin? That curly hair, my career would be out of here. I'm fucking running Hollywood. Yes, no, just... What the hell was he thinking? From now on, I ain't never gonna know you're Jesse from now on. You don't even get the you no more. That you is respect. You ain't getting no respect from me. Okay.
First of all, I love that he shit on the U in Smollett's name, because is there a more pretentious douchebag name than Jussie? Really? You couldn't just go with Jesse like everybody the fuck else. You had to be when you look at Jussie Smollett, and I guess it's Smollett, but I don't fucking care. If Rock has taken the U away from him, I'm taking the fancy last name away from him. He's now Jesse Smollett. Or Jesse Smollett, whatever. He went from Jussie Smollett to Jesse Smollett. He went from being like a well-respected actor to now being like some guy who pumps gas at fucking 20 miles outside Chicago. He's just a jerk off now. Probably. Yeah, Chicago. Yeah, he's going from being a black guy to being one of the Ditka guys, the Bears. No, wow, what a terrible Chicago impersonation. Sorry, I do not have my fastball this morning. It's been a busy week, and I just squeezed out a huge shit, and I'm still feeling some of the aftershocks. So, apologies to the very few fans that I have. But I don't know. Fuck you. Deal with it. But yeah, what a douchey. It's Jussie. Like, and he looks, when you look at him, like, when I looked at him interviewed, it wasn't the Gail King interview him? One of those, I don't fucking know who they are. One of the morning show ladies, black ladies that interviewed him, and he had that, like, I was mad, I was pissed off that they didn't believe me, and he just carries himself with this air of I'm better than you, like that. When I look at him, I look at a guy who thinks he's better than everyone, and I can tell because I'm a guy who thinks he's better than everyone. No, but he's a different kind of, I think. Like, I think I'm better than the asshole on the fucking bus next to me who clearly didn't shower that morning. And I only think I'm better than them because I showered, which means we were both riding the bus, so we're both on this level, and then I decided that it would be a good idea to shower before leaving the house, so I rise up a level. Jussie thinks he's, like, up here. He's not. He's a fucking jerk-off. And then when they did the press conference after the charges got dropped, he had this, like, smug look on his face, like, like, yeah, look at me, motherfucker. It's like, dude, this is why I love Chris Rock, because in a tribal world, he is still willing to go in on his own people for their bullshit. Like, you remember the famous want a cookie? What do you want, cookie? That bit, he has never been afraid to shit on his own people, and that is just such a rare thing across anyone. Like, there are so few people who, and this has nothing to do with the black thing, this happens to be black guys that we're talking about, but call it fucking white guys, call it Trump supporters, the LGBTQ, whatever the fuck, ZXY, whatever the fuck they're adding to that community. No one ever shits on their own people. Chris Rock is one of the few that will do it, and that's one of the reasons I absolutely love him as a comic. So for as much as he will go after, like, fucking, white, whatever you want to call it, like, privilege culture, woke, whatever fucking shit that we're supposed to be doing, he will also, when he sees his own people being huge hypocrites, he will fucking wreck that ass. So I appreciated that very much out of him. It's nice to know that you can still look to most comedians for an honest take on shit. That's one of the things I love the most about comedy, and that's one of the things that drives me so nuts about comedy today, is that there's so many people doing stand-up who are otherwise good comedians who, when it comes to calling out, certain hypocrisies and stuff, I just turn into complete fucking pussies. So nice job, Mr. Rock. Yeah, unlike he did have many, very many supporters who they've been saying that, and I'm not going to fucking relitigate the whole thing. They've been saying that Jussie has been cleared. He was cleared of all. He wasn't fucking cleared. All right, you fucking idiots. What happened was, he did some community service, and he forfeited his bond. Only like 10 grand. I don't know how much they fucking spent on this and how much attention and how much of the nation's energy was poured into this, but probably more than 10 grand worth. I know Chicago has a real problem with racism and homophobia, so they needed to pump all of their resources into it, even though they just elected a black lesbian mayor. It is MAGA country, after all, so we do have to be on the lookout for these nefarious folks who are running around beating up black guys and leaving them with nooses around their necks. The problem is running rampant in that town. But yeah, he wasn't cleared. He was fucking. They basically gave him a sweetheart deal and sealed up the record so it wouldn't fuck up his public image. Probably so he could continue, working. They're probably like, look, you've been, an influence to young gay people. You've done community service. We're gonna take this cash from you, and we'll wash our hands of it. But don't you ever start any shit like this again. I'm assuming that's how it went down. I think that's the logical man response to it. The media organizations are suing for the court records to be unsealed, so we may actually find out. I could be fucking wrong. The evidence could be like, oh yeah, apparently there is a huge pocket of racist Trump people in this one neighborhood in Chicago, and they hang out at the subway at 2 a.m. just waiting for well-known gay black actors to walk by. But I have a feeling that I know how it went. But there was one, I wanted to close this little portion of the show on this one tweet that I saw that I felt summed it up, and I'm paraphrasing here because I didn't get a chance to screenshot it. I was busy at work when I saw it, but I was busy fucking around on Twitter at work. But it said it from a very clearly intelligent young black woman. You mad that Jussie got off? I'm mad that Trayvon is dead. Hashtag. See the difference? No, you fucking dummy. I don't see the difference. First of all, I don't. If you're celebrating that Trayvon Martin was killed, you're just a bad person. Okay? I don't know who that applies to. There are only a handful of people who are like, you know what? The world is just a much, much better place without that Trayvon Martin kid running around mucking things up with his Skittles and Snapple. No, it's the Martin case was first of all the fucking prosecutors fucked up and overcharged. I think if they had gone for a manslaughter or something, they might have gotten a conviction. So you don't have to blame anyone, blame them. The Trayvon Martin case was two idiots crossed paths. Trayvon, teenage boys are fucking idiots. I was a teenage boy. I was a fucking idiot. It was fun, but stupid. And then George Zimmerman, a hothead with a gun, and someone apparently allowed him to be in charge of something, which doesn't make sense. If you've seen any footage of George Zimmerman, you'd be like, this is the last person I trust with any kind of security. I mean, he was getting his ass kicked by a teenager, if that's what you fucking need to know. No, it was a horrible, stupid case involving two idiots colliding, one of them getting killed, and a state that has laws that kind of says that if someone touches you or gets on your shit, you can actually shoot them. So it has nothing to do with people being mad or not about Trayvon. You could have come up with a million other cases other than Trayvon if you wanted to fucking describe how black guys get the shit end of the stick in modern America, right? Philando Castile is probably the one that I would go to, right? A legal gun owner gets capped by cops, I believe. Was it on a live stream or something like that? But yeah, if anything, that's the one you should be pointing out. But this is a moron on Twitter, so I shouldn't expect too much intellect from that person. But yeah, the internet just brings out the dumbest fucking takes in people. Anyway, in more fun news, let's put the dead black teenager behind us and focus on the 80s rockers who wore black leather pants. I don't know. Terrible segue. What I should have planned for that one. In any case, If you haven't seen The Dirt yet, check it out. It's about, obviously, Motley Crue. I think, do I have a copy of I got the book around here somewhere. Yeah, right there behind the Dallas Cowboys football is a copy of The Dirt. It is, again, yeah, it's a Netflix movie. It's about Motley Crue, the greatest rock band of all time. In my opinion. I know people will say things like, what about the Beatles? And I will tell you that the Beatles sucked my hairy asshole. It should, strawberry fields forever. Yeah, we'll jerk each other off in the strawberry fields. Shut up, fucking stupid Beatles. Stupid John Lennon. My two favorite Beatles were Yoko Ono and Mark David Chapman. But Motley Crue, what I love about Motley Crue is, aside from the music was absolutely boss, and all of the chicks that they banged, which was pretty cool, but they're like equal parts tragic and hilarious. So they're the ultimate characters too. Like, beyond the music and everything, they really are like the fucking, like, you've got Nikki Sixx dying twice. He escaped from the hospital after, they don't show this in the movie, but when he OD'd on heroin and died twice on a hospital, but he actually just pulled the fucking IVs out and just left the hospital after that. Like, when he woke up and he was like, "What the fuck am I?" and he just left the hospital. Vince Neil obviously killed a guy, fucking drunk driving, and did I think a 2-week jail sentence. I think it was supposed to be 21 days, but he got some time off for good behavior. And then they kind of. So there are a bunch of different wild Motley Crue stories of them, like, throwing shit out of hotel rooms and setting buildings on fire. And so, like, when I say that these guys were a fucking rock band, they were everything that you dream of a rock and roll band being was Motley Crue. Like, from the explosions on stage to destroying public property, they were just absolute beasts. But they've got, if watch the movie if any of the following interest you. Snorting ants and licking urine off of the ground with Ozzy Osbourne. Again, like I said, setting hotel rooms on fire. Dying twice and coming back to life. We touched on that. And of course, banging tons of sluts. I actually, like I said, I have the book up there. I read The Dirt in college, and it immediately made me fall in love with the band. And luckily, one of my buddies had the Carnival of Sins tour DVD, so I received like a crash course in all things Motley Crue over a weekend, and that was it. We got boozed up, watched it, listened to tunes, and I was like, this is it. These guys fucking rule. I was lucky enough. I saw them actually a couple years ago at the Garden on it's supposed to be their last tour. I'm hoping they come back, because these guys are the best. Tommy, they had a roller coaster set up, and Tommy came out and was playing the drums. He was going upside down. It was so fucking cool. Honestly, one of my favorite Motley Crue stories, Jim Florentine was telling this on Jim Norton, Sam Roberts the other day. They were, it was kind of, so what they did for the movie was, because you only have a couple hours to do the whole thing, so you gotta kind of combine some stories. So they took the Ozzy stuff, and they pulled out some of it, and then combined it with other incidences. You know how they fuckery, Hollywood fuckery. But it did not in the movie, but one of my favorite Motley Crue moments is when, I think it was, I do not know if it was Nikki or Tommy who was left to babysit Ozzy, but they were coming back into a hotel at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was a wedding party. Gary, bring them on camera. Oh, that's Facebook giving me a message. Hello, Gary. But there was a wedding party in a hotel elevator, and Ozzy took his pants down and began to take a shit. And they had to stop him from doing that, but he still wanted to take his shit. So when he got to his hotel room, he took a shit in the middle of the floor. Like, you don't hear about musicians doing cool shit like that anymore. But the movie did get kind of, speaking of shit, shitty reviews from some people. But for just any piece of cinema that begins with a chick squirting all over the place in front of a bunch of people at a party is okay with me. I know some people were mad because it displayed problematic male behavior in the music industry, which who knew, right? But my issue with all of this is that if you're a groupie and you're hanging out with Motley Crue, like, that's what you signed up for. You know, don't go to the amusement park if you're afraid of roller coasters, right? So as much as these guys were like, you know, perverts and deviants, what I've also read is that if a chick wasn't into it, they didn't want it, because I don't think they weren't like the creepy old men where they're gonna try to fucking lock you in a room and then take off their bathrobe. They were more like, hey, check out my penis. Okay, not interested? I will go to the dozens of other women who happen to be interested in my penis. So again, like I said, you know, if it involves a chick squirting all over the place in front of a crowd at a party, sign me the fuck up. And coming up, some fun little trends from over the weekend. Hashtag my white privilege was all over Twitter, and apparently men under the age of 30 are not having sex, which unfortunate for them, because sex, a lot of fun in my opinion. Before all of that, I do have to tell you to check us out on social media. Facebook.com/The Savage Crew is where you're watching this right now. And thanks to that live stream, Mr. Adam Schled here taught me how to position the microphone so that not only would I not have to use the pop filter, but it wouldn't blast the plosives all over the fucking place on the recording that I have running here. If you're wondering why the audio on the live stream isn't as good, it's because this mic doesn't actually run to the recorder. It runs to computer to capture audio. I do hope to update the tech setup eventually. I want to get like a Mevo or something like that so I can do some nice stuff. But Twitter at Mike Montone, Instagram at Gary_Moyler, Moyler. And of course the podcast available, thesavagecrew.libsyn, libsyn.com. And what do we got here? A little let's talk about that white privilege, shall we? I think I can kill these. One sec. What is this? There we go. This tablet's wonky as fuck, huh? White people are sharing the most outrageous things they've gotten away with because of hashtag my white privilege. And this is, I don't know what the fuck comicsans.com is. I don't know, it sounds like some bullshit blog, but it was tough to get an article on this that had all the tweets compiled, so this was like the best I can do. But it says, white people seem to hold all the aces when it comes to getting free passes in life in the United States. I'm sure there are some people in like West Virginia who really disagree with that sentiment, but some guy on Twitter at FreeYourMindKid asked his white friends to share the most outrageous things they've gotten away with simply by not being an ethnic minority. Yeah, they say ethnic minority, but let's be honest. I never hear about like fucking like Japanese and Korean kids who do fuck tons of homework complaining about this stuff. There are only a couple breeds out there who seem to be irked by it, but anyway, the self-flagellation on the part of white America in this is really what I'm focusing on. The Twitter user, this is fucking great, and this is the best way to tell you guys the kind of person who enjoyed this hashtag. The Twitter user Vote for Women, who, and she has the emojis of fists of different shades next to her name, so you can tell she tweets in solidarity with her sisters of color. She says, "I got caught stealing multiple times as a teenager, and they never called the cops. They just let me go with a warning. Every single time. Yeah, I don't, and then they tagged it with a personal escort to get you home safely. Sounds better than Uber. She didn't fucking say anything about them giving her a ride home. Oh, no, that's the next segment. I'm sorry. They're just terrible at blogging. But yeah, I don't know. There's no context to that whatsoever. I don't know what you got caught stealing, how old you were, what kind of neighborhood it was. Even if you steal from the neighborhood candy shop in the suburbs, they're probably just gonna call your parents and or be like, get the fuck out of here, kid. They're not. It's not being done in a high crime area with a broken windows policing policy. Unfortunate, not necessarily a good thing. But let's be honest. If you're a teenage girl is just, people don't see that as a fucking threat unless you're, say, wilding out and beating the shit out of somebody in a Brooklyn McDonald's. Then things get a little bit different. I only say these things which sound horribly racist because by virtue of my job, I get to see the surveillance footage of a lot of this stuff, and yeah. Anyway. Let's see. Charlotte Clymer, who uses a LGBTQ flag in her profile, and her avatar is "I stand with the WGA." The Writers Guild is fighting with BuzzFeed or some shit. So this broad's deep into the bullshit. Says, "Always been pretty tame, but here's a shitty anecdote. Every 6 months over the last 10 years living here in D.C., I get cop cars that pull up to me while I'm walking at night to remind me it's an unsafe neighborhood. It's not, and to ask if I need a ride. Hashtag my white privilege." And then she follows it up with, "That's unusual enough, right? What's sadder is that on more than a few occasions, there have been folks of color in a nearby proximity to me on the street who weren't asked if they needed a ride somewhere or to be reminded that it's unsafe out." Well, all right. So for the past few years since the Me Too movement was launched, I have been reminded that it is women can't go out after night. They would have these social media campaigns where the prompt would be, if there were no men, I would do, or if men had a curfew of 9 p.m., I would, and women are always like, I would walk down the street at night feeling safe. So maybe these are just cops who are like, yeah, well, they say they don't feel safe walking down the street at night. Let's, talk to her. I mean, look, I don't know what to make of this because, again, there's no fucking context to it. It sounds like shit that people could be... Like, these sound like completely fabricated scenarios. Like, remember when that University of Virginia rape thing came out? And people were like, something about this sounds made up. Like, when the scenario is too perfect, when it fits something that would go in, like, a public service announcement, then I have to be skeptical, and that just sounds like such a generic, made-up thing. Oh, like, let me tell you, the cops were none too quick to come to the aid of a lone white woman in a mixed ethnicity neighborhood, but that neighborhood's pretty safe, so they were probably just doing it because they hate black and brown people. Like, it just sounds too perfect. And also, by the way, it's fucking Washington, D.C., Like, yeah, there are nice parts of D.C., but the town does have a bit of a problem with, like, street-level crime. And again, if you're a woman walking alone late at night, then what do you want? Because if something does happen to you, then you're going to be like, oh, a cop car drove by me 5 minutes before I was sexually assaulted, and no one did anything, probably because the cops were two white men. Like, so it's really, like, it's kind of a, a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Called the police in Allston, Massachusetts when I lost the key to my bike lock. White firefighters showed up, didn't ask for any ID, proof that the bike was mine, or proof that I lived at that address, and cut the U-lock off without question. Okay, first of all, I do not know the racial demographics of Allston, Massachusetts, but I don't. This whole race in firefighting thing is white firefighters. Oh dear, there are white guys risking life and limb to run into burning buildings, or in this case, help assholes get their bikes unlocked. They didn't ask for any ID. I don't. Who IDs anyone when unlocking a they're firefighters, not detectives. I don't think they don't think that far in advance. Like, oh, someone's concocting a genius scheme to steal bikes by calling the fire department to come out and cut the locks off. Let me tell you something. I do not have the most adept criminal mind. Most of my crime has been relegated to stealing rugby trophies and throwing Slurpees at people. But I can tell you that if I did want to steal a locked-up bike, I would probably just get a set of bolt cutters and go find one that I could easily, bust into. I would instead of calling the government to help me do it, I would probably just do that. And I feel like if you are a criminal, you probably thought the same thing too. Proof that how many assholes out there actually have proof that the bike is theirs? Those serial number people. Those are the same people who wear fucking spandex to go on power rides through the suburbs. Fuck them. They deserve to get their bike stolen. Or proof that I lived at that address. Well, I don't. You don't need to live where you lock up your bike. I mean, you could lock your bike up anywhere. This is just without fucking logic. This is what these people do. They comb the memories of their lives. It's like a mini Me Too, almost, where they comb the memories of their lives for something that fits the bill, and they want to squeeze it in so that they can feel like part of it. They want virtue signaling, we've called it on many occasions here. They want to let you know that they realize that they were able to maneuver through that situation because of one thing and one thing only: the fact that they are Caucasian. Let's see. I would also point out that most of the people commenting here happen to be female, and I'm not sure if you know about this, but there is a bit of female advantage when dealing with police, right? A little, cops tend to be those type A alpha firefighters too, kind of guys who, they like the ladies. That's why you wear the uniform, and they tend to, in their dealings with women, be a little softer, a little gentler, because as a man who once wore a uniform, I will tell you, you are absolutely always attempting to parlay it into getting your knob slobbed. Here's what Jill says. Every interaction I have had with police has ended with a light warning, a friendly chuckle, and zero physical or psychological consequences. Even broke the law in full view of the cop and talked my way out of it to the point where the cop apologized. Yeah, he was trying to fuck you. Like, again, and what were you doing? Like, what white girl misdemeanor were you committing? Like, peeing in a bush or something like that? Drinking from a Solo cup on the sidewalk during a fucking parade? Like, the reason that they don't elaborate with these people is because they were probably doing something that didn't warrant an over-the-top police reaction, and they were probably doing it in a relatively safe area where the cops didn't want to be bothered with bullshit. So it's not this. I don't disagree that there are overzealous fucking members of law enforcement. I think we can all agree. We're all aware of Rodney King and, like I said before, Philando Castile, the myriad incidents where this shit has gone on. It doesn't mean that it's an always thing, though. And yes, if you are a white chick, this may have more to do with white female. If we want to go down that road, then by all means, I'd be willing to hear it. But here's another one. Most of my interactions with law enforcement are positive. I was once pulled over for expired registration, and the cop told me to just go get it renewed and send him proof that I did. Well, wait, can you get pulled over for an expired registration? Like, what the fuck is the cop? What's he, just fucking scanning minivan license plates and pulling people over? That sounds weird. This sounds like something that someone made up. It sounds like she got pulled over for something else. She was nice to the cop. She handed him a registration. It doesn't say when it was expired. It could have been, if it was, was it 3 weeks expired? Maybe the cop didn't want to fucking deal with it. Maybe, this is, again, there's no meat to any of these. This is just fucking white people self-flagellating. Someone followed up with, my white privilege usually means I get the ticket even though I'm very respectful. You must be whiter and more privileged. So, a white person who got the ticket. This is just absolute fucking bullshit. This is literally all just people, let's see. Yeah, this is, okay. Finally, someone fucking called a motherfucker out on his shit. And I'll wrap this segment after this because it's droning on. This guy says, was pulled over for DUI, 85 and a 55, reckless driving, 16 total tickets, refused breathalyzer, weed and bowl in my pocket. At the station, no cell, no drunk tank. Once the paperwork was done, bonded myself out with $100 bill. Hashtag my white privilege. Yeah, one of those guys who's just speeding around drunk with weed and $100 bill in his pocket. Okay, yeah. And so some guy responded, liar, things that didn't happen for 100, Alex. Hashtag fake news. Just the absolute. I am not bothered by the statement, white people have privilege when dealing with cops. I believe that is probably true in a number of scenarios. What I do have a problem with is fucking white assholes on social media digging through the record crates of their mind to find incidences that probably had way less to do with the color of their skin than anything else to bring to the table for this bullshit discussion, so that they can make themselves feel good, and people will retweet it and they'll get likes and they'll say, oh my god, it's blowing. I commented, have you guys used hashtag my white privilege yet? Like, it's just an absolute jerk off fest, and it's disingenuous, and that's what bothers me. I'm not bothered by, well, I am bothered by a lot, but one of the things that bothers me the most is disingenuousness. I don't like when people are full of shit about things. If anyone was being honest about this stuff, like if they were like, yeah, my black friend and I were walking down the street, each with an equal amount of guns, unregistered firearms, and drugs on our person, I was let off with a handshake and a warning, and my friend had the shit beat out of him and the barrel of a 9mm jammed down his throat as he was led into the squad car, where they didn't even duck his head down. They made sure it hit the roof of the car on the way in. They didn't even extend him that courtesy, and then they sodomized him once again down at the precinct while charging him with a number of unsolved homicides. If you had one of those, I'd be like, yeah, white privilege, motherfucker. But, these are all, like, some chicks like, oh yeah, when I was a teenager, I used to shoplift, and I'd get caught, and they wouldn't do it. I don't know, that could be totally fucking made up. Like, that doesn't even say, it sounds like a cop didn't want, it looked like you weren't a violent, dangerous person, and the cop didn't want to deal with your bullshit, or, again, maybe he just wanted to get in your pants. So, moving on. A few minutes. This is a long motherfucking, is it? No, actually not that bad. I thought it was longer. Is there like a read more? No. Number of men under 30 reporting no sex has reached record highs. Yikes. Despite the apparent ease of securing sex in the age of dating apps and hookup culture, young Americans seem to be having less of it than ever before. Oh, really? I feel like we've scared the shit out of people who are pursuing sex, because we've turned everything, and I know this is kind of like a trope, and it's kind of bullshit, that you're going to get accused of rape, but there is kind of a consideration that has to be made now. Who am I trying to bang, and what lengths am I willing to go to try to bang them, and where do I have to stop before being accused of X, Y, or Z? But according to the Washington Post, the number of adults in the United States who reported having no sex in the last year has reached an all-time high of 23%. Wow, so that's 23%. So that's a quarter of the population, and then you factor in people who maybe only do it once in a while, but it at least fell into the last year category. Could be going. So basically, what they're saying is at least half the population, more than, wow, could be just not getting laid. Maybe that's why everyone's so cranky. Citing the latest data from the General Social Survey, the Post reported a much larger than expected number of 20-something men among the nation's sexually inactive adults. According to the survey, the portion of Americans between 18 and 19 reporting no sex in the last year has more than doubled in the last decade, leaping from 8% in 2008 to 23% in 2018. Wow. I wonder, honestly, I mean, I'm assuming they don't get into the root causes, and some guy said it wasn't because of porn, but there is a thing known as porn-induced ED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, which means if you watch too much porn, your brain will essentially become overstimulated to the point where a sexual encounter with another person, if it isn't intense enough, you won't be able to achieve an erection. Like, if you can think about it, you can get a dozen browser windows open with German lesbians shitting on each other's faces, then, a casual hookup with Christine from down the street just might not be as, if she's not willing to dike out and shit on another girl's face, it just might not move the meter, as it were. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. You might have a lot of guys who are like trying, but they get nervous, they can't get it up, and chicks are just getting fed up, so the chicks are like, whatever, I'll just fucking rub my pussy, it gets the job done better and quicker anyway. This is why, hey man, if you struggle with that shit, get on that fucking, just get one of those Rhino 5000s, dog. Shit'll have you long and strong for a week. $10 at the gas station. These people have a slightly tamer explanation. There are more people in their 20s who don't have a live-in partner. Gene Twenge, a psychology professor, had cited. So under those circumstances, I think less sex is going to happen, which is interesting, right? Because I would almost think the live-in partner would eventually reduce the amount of sex that you have, because once you know somebody's defecation schedule, I feel like it takes a little bit of the romance out of things. And that, yeah, so I don't fucking, yeah, a little absence makes the heart grow fonder. There is an explanation that I will give credence to here is that a lot of people under the age of 30 are living it at home. So they say when you're living at home, it's probably harder to bring sexual partners into your bedroom. Yes, it is very difficult. Unless you live in a large house, it is awkward to fuck in your parents' home. It is a very maneuvering that ball field is very think back to when you were in like high school or college or whatever, and you had your girlfriend, you had to do the whole, we're down here watching a movie, and then it's like, you sneak a fucking BJ on the couch or something. Like, it's very hard to engage in any kind of real fucking when your parents are, sleeping 10 feet away. I was once sleeping over at a young woman's place in my younger days, and I'm pretty sure I heard her parents fucking, which was really, really weird, because they were they were getting up there in age and not in the best physical shape, but there are only a few things that sound like fucking, and this was definitely, the creaking back and forth of thrusting on a bed is just, it's a telltale sign. There's not a lot of other things that could be, especially at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, again, I am racking. Yeah, Adam, he used to love watching movies. Yeah, Adam, you guys famously had the porno box in the basement too, so you could access dirty movies, so you could legitimately tell your parents that you were just watching a movie, when in fact you could be having an all-night jack and fuck fest down there. So kudos to the Schlett family, salt of the earth people. But yeah, there aren't a lot of things that sound like two people fucking on a bed a room away, and I'm pretty sure that I heard this chick's parents fucking each other late at night while I was trying. You know when you're trying to fall asleep at like a place where you don't usually sleep, and you're kind of like it's actually that's an evolutionary thing. If you're uncomfortable sleeping in new places, it's because way back when we had to worry about getting eaten by wolves or attacked by a rival tribe, you couldn't sleep lightly in a strange place. You had to be ready to spring to your own defense at any time. So we have things inside of us that kind of kick in when we're sleeping somewhere new that cause us to, it's very hard to fall into a deep sleep. And so instead of being woken up by a ravenous pack of wolves or a raiding party from a nearby tribe, I was woken up by this kind of casual hookups, parents having sex, which is, let's just say the relationship didn't really metastasize from there. I was not wont to frequently sleep over at that place after, especially, oh, Jesus Christ. But in any case, I guess that's that. Well, look, as a man over the age of 30 who fancies himself rather virile, as you can see, I drink a lot of water, I have a great supplementation routine, I work out regularly, get a fantastic erection, and by the way, have my own place here, so you don't have to worry about anyone's parent being home during the act. I would be happy to pick up the slack for my limp-dicked under 30 brethren. I apologize too for them not bringing the beef bone to the table, as it were. You know, that old saying that doesn't actually exist. But you know what? Get out there and fuck, man. I was for a long time, well, not a long time, probably like I was like a 3-year period of my life. I was working nights and weekends. You want to talk about, and part of that time also living at home. You want to talk about difficulty fucking. Find someone who can come over and have sex during the day on a weekday. That's a fucking challenge. That's some fucking shit. We'll find Jimmy Hoffa's body before we find a lot of those. Like, I eventually did stumble upon one or two thanks to Tinder and, meeting chicks at, like, weddings and stuff who happened to have convenient schedules. But, oh my fucking God, is it that is some shit to pull off. You really, if you can get laid on a regular basis on a weekday during business hours, then you're proud of yourself after that. I have never beamed so much with pride as I would leaving my place at 3 p.m. to go to work, with whiskey and vagina on my breath, having just drained a couple of nuts. And on that note, we should probably wrap things up, hitting just about an hour here. I gotta get out to, I gotta go scrub off my balls and then get out to Queens for the Mets home opener, because it is one of the most magical days of the year. Before I go, I will leave you once again with my social info: facebook.com/The Savage Crew, Twitter at Mike Montone, Instagram at Gary_Moyler, Moyler, and of course the podcast lives at thesavagecrew.com. www.libsyn, libsyn.com, and you can find links to everywhere else that it's available. Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes, all that shit are pasted at the top of the Facebook page. So if you're not a Libsyn guy and you want to listen to it in Pocket Casts or Podbean or whatever, you go up there and it'll link you right to it, and it should open the respective apps in your phone. But thank you guys for tuning in, and please, as always, tell a friend, tag a friend, share it with whoever you want to alienate. I know a number of you have approached me in private saying that you enjoy the show, but sharing or liking is difficult because of the somewhat blue subject matter, which I totally understand. So what I would say to you is identify those like-minded scumbags within your social circle and just text it or privately message to them. But I'll catch you guys next week. I am hoping to get back into doing the kind of daily Sack Tap lives. I've been working on a bunch of other shit, and I'm kind of wrapping up on that now. So once that's complete, I'll start jumping on the live stream more often during the week, because I enjoyed doing that, and I kind of miss it. But have a lovely Thursday, and I'll catch you later.